For those of you who are here live, and for those of you who catch the replay in the future, I am going to be dripping out a lot of my signature programming through this method of master classes sporadically. So I'm not planning them in advance. It's literally when I spontaneously feel to offer a master class, whoever makes it into the registration makes it. And I truly believe that the conversations we're having inside of this space are some of the most important conversations of our time. The more I deepen on my path into birth work, and the more I become aware of my own origins, my own birth, my own life in utero, my own conception, and the way that all of that informs my life, the more I discover that birth work is nothing more than a journey of remembering who we are, remembering love. And at some level, as our society and our culture gets further and further away from this truth, together, all of us have an extraordinary opportunity to come together in circle and remember what birth is all about, and therefore what love is all about. Caitlin, yes, please, dads, husbands, partners, this one is definitely for you. Yes, amazing. I love that you're here. So if you're listening to this masterclass, and if at some point something I say really resonates in your system, it moves you, or maybe you have a friend or someone you're close to that pops into your mind, take a screenshot of this and send it to them. Send them the replay, or just record as you're listening and pop something in your stories. It's really, really awesome when we can all work together and get this amazing content and this wisdom out there. Why on earth are we having the conversation, or why on earth do we need to have the conversation about what love has to do with conception, pregnancy, and birth? Why do we need to have this conversation? This is the question. So for those of you who are here, please drop in the notes, drop in the chat right now. Don't think about it, just write it. Why did you come to this masterclass? What was it about the topic of love and the topic of birth together as one? Or what was it about any of the content that I put out there around this masterclass that made you register? Put it in the notes now, in the chat. It could just be also one word, anything. So how we're going to start is I'm going to guide you guys into a little space. So whoever is here, no matter what you're doing, wonderful. Wanting to gain perspective to create a more harmonious partnership and family. Interest in conscious birthing and conception, deepening our knowledge on the topic for a second baby. Yes. Isn't that what we all really want? To create harmonious partnership, to create harmonious family. And in this era where we have so much information, so much education, all of it available in abundance, in excess, something is still missing. There's something missing. What is it? I recently discovered that, it just dawned on me in a contemplation, that every single person who has enrolled in the Transform into Birth 10-week series that I offer through Luminous Birth has evidently lived through their dream, natural, gentle, easeful birth. And it actually really caused me to ask the question, what is different about this program? What is different about the wisdom that continues to speak to me and vibrate inside of me that is different than any other thing out there? And there's two things, well, there's four things, but I'm going to mention two things here. One is the revisiting of our own birth and pre-birth, conception and preconception experiences. Inevitably, when we conceive, when we're pregnant, and definitely when we give birth, we re-experience our own birth and pre-birth, that early part of our history, inevitably. And the second, and so in the Transform into Birth work, in the Transform into Birth series, we explore and we revisit the birth, the earliest history for the mother and the father. And so that leads me into what is the second piece of this work that is different than anything else that is out there to my knowledge. And I've spoken to a lot of people. It is that it really takes into deep consideration the quality of the relationship of the parents. So we invite dad into the equation. Amazing. He's such an important part of the equation, but somehow seemingly being very much still on the outskirts. So birth is intelligently designed to transform two humans into parents. It's intelligently designed to transform two humans into parents. You cannot come out the other side of birth the same way you went in. So for those of you here who have not birthed yet and are not pregnant yet, if you were to get picked up and plunked into the role of motherhood right now, without having gone through 9 months of becoming, 9 months of gestation, a journey, a deep, unique journey of labor and then birth, you've just got plunked, skip all of that and you get plunked into the role of motherhood, it would not work. The intelligence of pregnancy and labor and birth is such that it's literally exquisitely designed to transform us through a living process into the parent for that specific child. It means that every single pregnancy we transform again, over and over and over. And the reason why this is so important to just remember is because, and the reason why I'm bringing this point in here now is because we get really, really caught in this conversation of how can I create a birth that's pain-free or that's easeful or that's not the terrorizing experience that the mainstream media has taught me birth is. And therefore, now we have all these modern conversations that are happening in our modern day around birth about orgasmic birth, ecstatic birth, pain-free birth, and all of that. And in my opinion, this is actually just catering to the me. I want this, I want that. And it's leaving out the huge, really important part of the conversation, which is why. I really don't like this term pain-free birth because I think it's really just an illusion. But the question is, why? What kind of birth are we wanting to create? that leads us into the question of, what kind of life am I wanting to create? What kind of world am I wanting to create? I want to have an easeful, gentle birth that facilitates connection between me and my partner. I want to create an easeful, gentle birth that creates a peaceful human being. A human being who never questions whether or not they're loved, who never questions whether or not they belong, whether or not they're welcome in their family, in their community, in their world. So nowadays we have, and there's such good information. So I do want to say that I am not in any way putting down what's out there. I'm simply saying there's another part of the conversation that's really, really important. And from my experience, and I've listened to hundreds of birth stories from men and women, of women who were intending to have a natural, peaceful birth at home, that then consequently becomes a hospital transfer. And when these women and these couples are actively and authentically listened to as they tell their story, one of the most common things that we uncover is that there was an unresolved relationship issue. This is an unseen energy that was in the room that directly informed and shifted the physiology of the birthing woman and created a blockage. The blockage in the labor or the physiology, this is not a problem. This is actually a solution. It's actually the intelligence of birth working in a genius, mysterious, inexplicable way to ensure that this birthing woman and this couple actually move through an extraordinarily important part of their journey that is then going to inform the years and the decades that follow, and I would even say the centuries that follow, because birth provides this supreme opportunity to write a new story. It's transcendent in nature. Everything comes up at the time of birth. Everything comes up before birth, but anything that's not been illuminated and worked with will inevitably come up at birth. And I always say it's not if it comes up, it's when and how it comes up. If you're coherent, if you're aware of these unseen aspects of your emotions, of your history, of the memory that your body is holding, all of this, then when these things come up during birth, or any ceremony for that matter, but especially birth, then your awareness can ensure that those experiences or those currents that you need to move through don't overpower you. And if you're coherent with your history, then you can create a birth team or layers of support around you. That could be no one at all, or that could be other layers of support that can truly serve you in your birth. So before I go any further, because I can easily just talk, and I really want to stay committed to not shouting at you. I want to bring this back down to the intention of this masterclass. And the way I want to enter into that is by just inviting everyone here to pause, just take a deep breath, give yourselves permission to let go of whatever your day has been so far, whatever your week has been so far. And do a little body scan. Notice any areas that are tight or holding, tired. And simply send your awareness into those areas, wherever they might be. Everyone here was born. We were all born. That's something that every human has in common. One way or another, we got here. And so these conversations move so much inside of us in subtle and not so subtle ways. And so bring your presence in here now. And a very quick exercise for us all here. I want to invite you to imagine if you grew up with two parents in your household, or maybe you did for a portion of your childhood, and maybe you had a step parent or whatever was your dynamic. If you didn't have two parents in the household, then just imagine, because we all know this in ourselves. Imagine or bring into the forefront of your memory a time when your parents weren't on the same page. There was tension, stress between your parents. They didn't need to say anything, mention it, nothing. You knew. And just feel how that is in your body. And now, bring into the forefront of your feelings a time, or bring into your memory a time when your parents were just so on the same team. Maybe you have a memory of them laughing together in the kitchen, or of your mom putting her hand on your dad driving down the road. Remember a time when your parents were in love. And if you don't have any memories of seeing your parents in love, you can still bring the feelings into your body. Imagine if you got to see and experience your parents in love. And notice the difference in your physiology. Notice how that feels for you. And just for a couple of minutes, I'll invite you to stay tethered to this space, to your feelings, allowing your thoughts to dwindle, giving yourself permission to get out of the thinking brain and come even more into your body. And imagine if your birth was a celebration. You've just arrived. It feels like you lived lifetimes in the womb. And what a journey it was just to get into the womb. Before you even implanted, it was such a journey. The most heroic journey of your lifetime, entering form. And then 9-ish months of growing and learning to be human inside your mother. All of this to equip you, to prepare you to enter the arms of your family on the outside world. Imagine that you were born at home in a quiet, peaceful environment with two humans who were deeply in love. Imagine that your birth was a celebration of your parents' love. Who would you be today? And just allow that question in a contemplative form to exist in your awareness. Let it be there for the next minutes and hours and days and weeks. Who would you be today if your life, if your birth was a celebration? If you were welcomed with all the loving affirmations that we all need to hear when we're born, like you are a being of love. You're just who we wanted. You will always be safe in this family, in this community, in this world. Imagine your birth as you wish it had been. And allow those feelings to exist in your body right here, right now. So this brings us back to the initial question, which is, what does love have to do with conception, pregnancy, birth, and family? Even the conversations around orgasmic birthing are getting so caught up in the intellectualization and scientifics around the physiology of birth and hormones that we're actually forgetting the lived, felt, sensual experience that gives rise to the chemistry that orgasmic birthing is actually speaking to. You cannot think your way to an orgasm. Well, the hormonal blueprint of lovemaking, the hormonal blueprint of orgasm is identical to the hormonal blueprint of birth. And so if you spend 9 months intellectually preparing for ecstatic birth or gentle birth, then it is going to be very, very difficult to get out of the mind and into the body where all birth is happening when the time of labor and birth comes around. So why are we not incorporating the couple in birth preparation? And why are we not having conversations around actually the ecstatic blueprint of life, the differences between men and women, and actually the very, very simple formula that creates chemistry? We're living in these modern times where we've completely forgotten actually the roles of men and women, and we have the women really in their masculine archetypes and doing. We have men completely merged with the feminine dimensions, and this creates intense tension in relationships. And I see that all of the time. And maybe you can relate to that in your own relationship. When there's tension in a relationship, when there's arguing happening in a relationship, typically there's just a part of a formula that is out of balance. This is really chemistry. This is, if I'm in doing, working, focusing, making the money, doing all the things, I'm naturally going to produce more testosterone. And then my estrogen and particularly my progesterone are going to definitely go down. And when I'm producing more testosterone, then my partner will produce more estrogen. And now all of a sudden we have tension. And so what tends to happen inside of this is that couples go for all the therapies, all the trauma healing, all of this, all of that. And I'm not opposed to these things, but I think they're deeply entrapping at some level. And we just get spun out. We get spun out in the never-ending conversation about what's wrong, instead of introducing the solution. which is, this is actually very, very simple. There's chemistry here. The chemical equation is not balanced. How can we bring this back into balance? And I work with couples all of the time, and we look at what's going on, and we see that even the most doomed situations and worst possible case scenarios, irreversible, there's no going back to love. We actually see that it's very, very easy to repair these things, and not just repair them, but rejuvenate relationships to their deepest, most loving, romantic, mutually admiration kind of relationship. And I'm not going to go into much here now, other than to say that, women are very simple and men are very simple too. We kind of get confused when we go like, women are so complicated. Actually, we're very easy. We're a very easy part of the human species. I'm just going to mention two things here now. Women, we need to be listened to. So for all the papas here, all the men here, women need to be listened to. So we have this superpower, which is we're deeply sensual creatures that have an enormous capacity to feel. And we seemingly have a need to vocalize those feelings. What often happens with women and in relationships is that the woman is doing the thing that she needs to do, which is vocalize her feelings. And then the man takes responsibility for the feelings. So she says, I'm not feeling good today. And what the man hears is literally, oh my gosh, I'm not making her happy. And so the man takes what has been expressed vocally, personally, feels attacked, which completely dismantles his ability to just listen. Okay, so that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is that men really, really need to be appreciated. They need to be appreciated. So, these are just basic principles that show up to respond to the basic needs and differences of men and women. And I think this is a really important thing to get, especially if you're going to spend the next years and decades of your life parenting. So I'm going to taper it back a little bit. There's just so much there we could say in the realm of relationships, but I just wanted, I really, if I could just offer, these masterclasses are always going to be different, but I just want to drop in something that's like possibly something you've never heard before. Like if you're here and you're like, my gosh, we've got some stuff coming up in our relationship. We have no idea what to do with it. And even the most breakthrough, advanced psychotherapeutic models today do not have the solution for it, because they're just going to keep us spiraling into the pain body and the so-called trauma that whatever. I just want to be the voice here that says, actually, all of this is happening for you. And there's something even more beautiful and impossibly unimaginable that is more than accessible. You're more than able to unlock that. We don't have examples of it in our society, and we have very few people that can mirror us at the level that we need to be mirrored when these common relationship challenges come up. Okay, so why is it important that we're talking about relationships in relation to conception and pregnancy and birth? For those of you who are pregnant here, you know that your baby is just speaking so clearly to you all the time, through your feelings, through your needs and your wants. Babies know exactly what they need, and they begin communicating to us long before they enter form. For those of you who are mamas or papas here, I mean, it's probably quite easy for you to just reflect on your life before you became pregnant or before you became a family, at how quickly things rearranged and changed shape in your life. They were already orchestrating. As I am in the immediate preconception window of my life, I'm hearing, and for those of you who know my work, you already know this. For those of you who are getting to know my work, it really is my attunement to the incoming souls that really guides my stewardship of all my work, and especially this vision of luminous birth, which is about protecting the consciousness of souls from the time of preconception. But now that I am entering this real immediate preconception window, I'm hearing the voices of the children so crystal clear. And I'll just share with you a little story. It's a love story, so maybe that brings some juiciness to the space. I was laying in bed with my partner. It was just about 4 weeks ago. And I became hyper aware of his body and my body next to each other. So we were just laying in bed. The sun was pouring through the window. We were so relaxed. It was an afternoon in south of Portugal. And I sort of just expanded my awareness to see the two of us lying here in bed, bodies side by side. I could feel the warmth of his body on mine and all this energy that was just exchanging in this very peaceful capsule that we were just relishing in. And these words, "it is all right here. It's all here," kept repeating into that space. It's all right here. Everything and anything that you could ever want to create or give birth to comes from this space. After many years of, you could say, attuning to this man who is just the absolute love of my life, who I'm going to create a family with, we are creating a family. And now that our lives have come together, I've been experiencing what I believe is like the true definition of the word revelation. And the biggest revelation that I had was during lovemaking. It dawned on me. It just came in, and these are things that I've been teaching for years. But now that I'm in this window, and the consciousness of the beings that will come through me are so close that it's like palpable. The awareness came in of, oh my God, I open the gates for these beings. But he, capital H, he brings them in. And for all of us women here, can we drop into that space where we reclaim that reverence for the masculine? Because we are living in a time where, if you say that in like United States of America in the wrong room, you will get shoved out of the room. It's like, we're living in a time where women are, it's like, we don't need a man to do anything. And that is, it's like a toxicity that has infiltrated our society and has thrown relationships off kilter so badly that, it's just like the roots of this are so deep, and absolutely goes back to our own births and the industrialization of birth and all of this, which I won't go into those rabbit holes, but just to bring it back to, without him, there is no baby. And Lord knows we're living in a time where we can grow babies in laboratories, and that's just really, 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 really sad. But let's not open that either. Let's just really come back to the masculine and the feminine. We open the gates, he brings them in. How much power he has in this equation. You, dads, you are the most important part of this equation. Without you, there is no pregnancy. Without you, there is no birth. And so that is something that can soften us. It can actually just like, at the time when this revelation happened, it just brought absolute, I just started weeping and crying and crying. And in this moment, a tremendous healing happened. It was like this long process of me coming back into right relationship with the masculine. And so these are the feelings. These are the feelings that create these chemical elixirs that then make babies and then birth babies. Yeah? These are the dynamics that bring children into the world who never forget these basic principles of who we are. So I'm just going to pause there for a second and look up here. Yeah, he brings them in. So we know, or maybe we know, maybe we don't know, but the hormones that are involved with birth are the same hormones that are involved with lovemaking. So if anybody here has ever had an orgasm, then you know you've come very intimate with this queen hormone of oxytocin. Oxytocin produces in our systems, floods our systems at this moment of orgasm. Oxytocin also floods our systems in deep, intimate conversations with a loved one. When you're sharing sincerely, you're feeling heard, you're feeling safe, you're feeling held. Oxytocin produces when you hug longer than a minute, you start to get warm and soft. That's oxytocin. Oxytocin produces in large amounts when you kiss. Oxytocin produces in the highest amounts available to a human being during birth, in both mother and baby. This is the hormone that is responsible for love, yes, of course, but it's also responsible for our feelings of safety and connection. It's absolutely paramount that these hormones, and these hormones also give rise to the production of other beta endorphins, which are literally Dr. Sarah Buckley, if you're not familiar with her, you can easily look her up, but she gives such a good voice to the hormonal blueprint of labor and birth. And she says that the beta endorphins that are naturally produced in an undisturbed, unmediated, unmanaged birth are like hundreds of times stronger than the most powerful opiates on the planet. They're stronger than heroin, they're stronger than anything. But it's not, the piece that I'm wanting to bring in is not just like, yeah, we want to have a pain-free birth. Yes, this is amazing when you can transcend the pain and where you can enter this higher realm and slower brainwave states where pain is there, yes, but it's not being experienced as such. You're experiencing something wider, something more meaningful, something more expansive. It's also so that the connection between mother-baby, the connection between mom and dad, the connection of the whole family remains intact. So things to really be aware of are, what are the energies, what are the chemicals, what are the interventions, what are the things that impede or inhibit or obstruct the production of oxytocin. Well, certainly synthetic oxytocin, which is given out like on a regular basis, especially in the United States of America, and it's given to induce labor. So if you're working with a midwife, I have a list of questions that I give all of my clients. It's a list of questions to ask your midwife, because there are so many things that go along with modern midwifery that you won't find out until you start to get close to your due date. It bothers me to say this term, due date. Obviously, there's no such thing as due dates. But in this industry of birth, we have due dates. And so in modern midwifery, if you come up to 42 weeks, then you will probably be, your midwife will relieve care and you will have to go birth in the hospital unless you've already been preparing yourself to birth confidently, freely in your own home. And I think that's something that everyone should know, because I see this over and over again, where women really invest in another woman who's their midwife, emotionally invest in her, and develop a loving relationship, a relationship where she really feels safe and held and supported. And then we start to get close to where a baby is due to arrive, and all these stipulations come in because the midwife is not willing to, of course, go against community standards. And therefore, if you don't go into labor by tomorrow or by Wednesday, then you'll have to go to the hospital. And what this does is it just creates a very tragic, devastating experience for mothers where they have to decide, okay, I'm going to free birth on my own. And maybe if you're preparing for that, great. If you have a midwife, I'm guessing you're not prepared for that. Or you have to go against your body and your baby, and abide by her regulations. So this is a time where induction could be suggested, in which case they would give you something, probably synthetic oxytocin. What's important to know about synthetic oxytocin, which is Pitocin, is that it induces, like the contractions, the surges. Well, in this case, I would actually appropriately use the word contractions. In normal physiological birth, I would say they're surges, or sensations. But with synthetic oxytocin, you're literally, it's just inducing the contraction of the uterus. And Sarah Buckley refers to these kinds of contractions as jackhammer contractions. They're way faster, way harder, way more painful than a normal birth sensation. It's above and beyond what a human is designed to actually take. And so, of course, this inevitably, often, not always, but most of the time, gives rise to the need for further intervention. So mamas should really know that if they are saying yes to something like Pitocin, then they're actually saying yes to increase their chances of a cesarean by 40 to 60%, because it often goes down that route. So the other thing I want to mention here is that the time after birth is a time that is designed, it's the most important hour of any of our lives, right? It's the most important hour of our existence, that first hour after birth. Modern midwives, and even many traditional midwives, they're very scared of this hour somehow. Once a baby gets born, then the placenta needs to get born. And there's a huge amount of fear, you could say, on behalf of midwives and birth keepers around this thing called placenta retention. A placenta the placenta gets born sometimes 15 minutes after the baby arrives, sometimes an hour, sometimes several hours. But normally in midwifery and modern birth care, they want to see it come out within 20 minutes max. And if it does not come out at that point, they'll give a shot of Pitocin. Why should you be aware of this? Because as soon as artificial oxytocin goes into your system, your natural pituitary induced oxytocin will stop producing, right? It's like, oh, you're going to do that? I'll stop. The thing to know is that Pitocin, the synthetic version, does not at all have the same behavioral effects as your own pituitary induced oxytocin. It goes directly into the bloodstream. It does not induce these feelings of euphoria and connection and safety. So your connection between you and baby, or you and your partner, the whole family as one, gets severed. This is something to really, really, really be aware of. I was one of my clients recently, she fired her midwife within like a week of giving birth because her midwife was not willing to leave the Pitocin in the car, let alone at home, when she came for the birth. So she was like, okay, well, that's not resonant. These are things that you should know. When this hour after birth is completely protected, I mean, bonding is just this fancy word for falling in love. When that golden hour is revered, is left alone, then babies and mamas are bonding, they're falling in love. This is a no thought, deep, trance-like, very unique experience to this mother baby who have just gone through a very unique, individualized experience and journey of getting born. And when that's not interrupted, all those natural feelings that are taking place are what release the placenta. If that's interrupted, that could be by asking a question, that could be by turning on a light, that could be by rubbing the baby. And many things can interrupt this physiological process. It's very, very, very sensitive. Then something else happens. So I just bring this in to say we need to be doing whatever it takes to protect the physiology of birth. But the physiology of birth is the after effect, the byproduct of just connection, love, celebration, presence with all that is, no matter what is present, just being present for it. All the feelings, all the sensations, that is what produces hormones. So often at the beginning of labor, it's like, oh, labor started. Okay, do this, do that, do this, do that. And when in actuality, what makes more sense actually is to just really relax and go about your day, or at least, dad, if you're there, create a space that is conducive of mama coming out of those very fast-paced brainwave states, out of her thinking brain, into the slower brainwave states, into the realm of feeling. So I always say, like, set up the space that you would set up for lovemaking. You know, mama, that beginning stage is like the most opportunistic, the most important part of the whole journey, because you know the feminine, she is always, but this is mamas, you can vouch for me here if I'm if I'm saying it how it is. During labor, this is like exponentially more the case. Women are always never not assessing the environment, like highly sophisticated assessment beyond what even our conscious brain is, for whether or not we are safe. And so throughout I go over this in the Transform into Birth, really getting to know what are the stages of labor, what are the brainwave states associated for this, how can you optimize this? You know, like any non-ordinary or altered state, there's ways that you can maximize that experience, and it has everything to do with set and setting, right? So in these beginning stages of labor, this is where it's the time to really like nurture her senses. She's coming out of the thinking brain and into the feeling brain. And the more you can nurture and respond to her senses, that's, what does she see? Is it bright? Are the lights dim? Are they conducive of relaxation? What does she hear? Is there beautiful nature around? Is there some soft music? Are the children laughing in the background? Great. You know, what does she smell? Are there natural, beautiful aromas and oils and chocolate? This is the kind of thing that, like, you know, this helps us soften and open and lets our bodies say yes. So if you wouldn't make love, have the most mind-blowing sex of your life in the hospital, then I don't recommend birthing there. I recommend giving birth in the same place that you would make love. So just imagine you're entranced with your partner. No one else exists, just the two of you. You're making love, and then all of a sudden you have strangers walk in the room. Well, for sure, for the woman, her physiology instantaneously shifts, but likely for both of you. Yeah. And then it really would take some time and some work to come back into that space of mutual admiration and sharing and all of that ecstatic bliss. It takes some time. You're not just entering it back automatically. Well, you can imagine how it might be if you're making love and you're completely entranced and these strangers come in and they turn on the lights and they put the blood pressure cuff around you. I mean, okay, it's not rocket science, but I have to say it. All of these things oppose normal birth physiology. The relationship, I'm jumping all around because I guess that's how I am today. But I'm going to come back now to the relationship. And this is where I'll close. And then I'll really want to like hear your questions or anything that you want to put here in the chat. The relationship is the sanctuary. The number one mistake that people make, and especially women, is choosing their partner because they think that man will be a good dad. So, number one mistake that we can make, especially as women, is, and in particular, I'm going to say particularly as women, because men is something very different. Men know when they have the mother of their children. This is a totally different thing. But for women, if you haven't yet conceived, if you're not with your partner and you're calling in that man, my best strongest advice to you is to include your preconceived unborn babies as a participant in bringing in their dad, because they will ultimately align you with someone who is literally above and beyond your heart's most wildest, deepest desires. Why? Because what they need, they are two humans who are deeply and madly in love with each other. When you call in your partner from here, from this intellectual place, or when the hormones of I want to be a mama take over and you just look for a baby daddy, this is often how things go in another direction after pregnancy and kids. And then I'll take you, into another moment of personal revelation that I had, where, again, in bed, very intimate space with my partner, and very open. My body, my mind, my spirit was open and receptive. And I heard the voice of my preconceived children say, "This is everything. The quality of your relationship is everything. Take care of this. Do not put us first. You will need each other." And we are a couple who are really, excited and overjoyed with all the uncertainty of becoming parents and cultivating family and getting to know these gorgeous, beautiful, delicious humans that are coming in to spend their lives with us. But without the naivete that there will be challenges. It will have moments that are extraordinarily testing. And in those moments, we will need each other. You will need each other. You'll need each other's strength. You'll need your love. And it is your love that informs your babies that they are safe. And that's why I invited all of you who are here into that space of, remember a time when mom and dad weren't on the same page. They didn't even have to say anything. You knew if they were fighting just by the way they entered the room or didn't enter the room. Kids know everything. When mom and dad are in love and they're connected, we felt safe. We didn't even question whether or not we were safe. We just knew it. We didn't have a care or a worry in the world. It's the same for our children. They need to see us in love. They need to see our friendship. They need to see us sensual and expressing our love to one another. We are their sanctuary. And that love, when it really is the source from where conception just overflows from there, that is what is informing the psycho-neuro-endocrine immune system development of our babies. And that's a whole other conversation, but it's, I'm just mentioning it not to go into the whole pre and perinatal psychology realm of things or the scientifics of things, but the love is it. The love is everything. And so my strongest advice is that if you are preparing to journey through the veil to give birth, no matter what is your plan, no matter what you're choosing for your birth, there's two things. One is to revisit your own birth, revisit your own experience growing in your mom's womb. There's more memory than you can even comprehend inside of that space. Revisit your own conception and preconception part. Yeah, we have a whole field of epigenetics that shows us very clearly that everything that was going on in our parents' environments for the years before we were even a thought informs our development and who we are and how we are in our lives and in the world. All those memories are very accessible. This is a cornerstone of my work. I guide individuals to revisit their birth, rewrite their birth, re-imprint that story. And that is what equips you to literally welcome a new story, to write a new story, not just for your birth, for the rest of your life and lifetimes, generations that follow. So that's number one recommendation. And number two is to embrace your relationship and even have someone who can mirror you and your partner through your mutation, through your transfiguration. You're going to change through this process. You need to change. This is one of the reasons, there's so many reasons why I don't really like this term pain-free birth. But one of the reasons is that birth is designed by nature to initiate us. If it was just easy, and I also, this is where it gets so paradoxical. I also believe that it's designed to be easy. It's not designed to be this hard, laborious, painful event that we've been taught it is. It's designed to be easeful. It's designed to be ecstatic. However, it's also designed to initiate us. We need to go through something. We need to work for it, yeah? We need to become competent. We have to change. We have to transform. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to have unwavering confidence that no matter what, the biggest economic crash ever happens in the human history, we've got this as a family. This is solid, and birth will upload you with that. And if you leave those hormones intact, Mama Tiger isn't going anywhere. She can take, and that family can take, and dad can protect and serve and provide and no matter what. That's what birth is designed to provide. And it just does it effortlessly when we allow it. Yeah, birth is for falling in love. And the way that we birth families that are set up for health, connection, resilience, intimacy. You want to be intimate with your children. Intimate is to really nurture the intimacy, the love, the sanctuary of your relationship. And if you're here and you have children, or you want to have children, but you have blockages in your relationship, or you already have children and you're like, this relationship is just at its end point, I am here to say that there is no issue that is too big, that is unsolvable. If you continue to operate in the modern trauma healing industry, likely there is no solution. Likely you will just continue, perpetuating the pain thing. But if you really, have desire to learn about, how do men and women work, and how are men and women different, and how can I come back into right relationship with the masculine, and all these things, and how can we come back into right relationship with the feminine? Everyone, we have to unlearn, but it's really just a remembering process. Then we can, and I really think that the easiest, most direct, efficient way to remember these things is by revisiting your own birth and remembering that process. These memories are so easy to get to when you have someone skilled that is coherent with their own history, their own pre and perinatal memories, who can really focus awareness on your unique history and help you to process that, unpack it, and restore your original blueprint. It's like you have to reorganize all the information inside of your system in a way that serves your continued development, because we experienced a lot of confusing stuff. Yeah. So I'm going to stop talking now, and I just want to open up the space. If there's any questions, if there's any comments, please do share with me. I would love to answer at least one question. Or comment what's going on inside your heart or your mind, your body. How's the baby who's here?
Victoria, thanks so
Caitlin.
much for
Aw.
hosting this. We appreciate it.
Aw.
Um, we have an 18-month-old,
Mhm.
and we're preparing for conceiving a second child. And this point you brought up with the trauma body or the pain body and trauma and the healing industry, and it is an industry for sure. I wonder what your take is at a deeper level of how important is it important at all to touch the pain of, say, childhood trauma, birth trauma, in order to clear those blockages that you spoke of in preparing for a harmonious birth. And how do you, if you touch that, how do you avoid spiraling,
Right.
into space for too long, or how do you know how much is too long and how much is too little?
Right. Oh, it's such a good question. It's such an important question. I'm really passionate about touching into this whole industrialization of healing, because it's like, it's really, it's dangerous, and I have over a decade now of diving deep into these realms inside of myself and witnessing thousands of people through very deep transformational experiences. And I've seen the way that we get stuck in those realms, and we often fail to see that doorway of liberation that is in literally plain sight, right? um, it's not that it's not important to go back and to revisit. I am going back with individuals on a regular basis to revisit their birth, and we're discovering what happened or what didn't happen, and I will tell you, it is incredible, because we were all born in the 90s or the 80s, and like how they've been welcoming humans into this world is like, it's no wonder any of us made it through alive. It's like capital T terror. Um, but why are we revisiting it? We're revisiting it for the purpose of to understand, to make sense, for the purpose of our continued development. It's it's like if we were treated like the conscious, aware humans that we were at birth and even before birth, if people were talking to us and explaining to us what's going on and why, we would have gotten it. Actually, we were way more conscious then than we are now. We were way more aware. Babies are way more aware. So that's one part of my answer. The other part of my answer would be, it's not that it's not important to go back to these troubling experiences, but that's not where we start. If I would be working with you two and we would open up a session and I would go like, oh, Caitlin, I can see how you're sitting. You're trying to, like, you must be holding something over here in this part of your body. Well, how does that feel? Well, why don't you go into that part of your body? And, it's like, instead, it's like, wow, can I just take a second to admire you both for being here? And thank you so much for trusting me as a complete stranger that you don't know. Look at all of this trust and confidence and courage, and wow, look at you coming together clearly. And even if you're, experiencing deep, supposedly irreversible problems, clearly you know that there's a solution. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. You'd already have done something else, right? That kind of therapy doesn't create returning clients. It sends people on their way. It empowers them. It fuels the love. It fuels, please go listen to the conversation that I had with Dr. Stuart Sovatsky. He's an incredible world teacher and author, and it's on my YouTube channel. It's unedited, so there's 1 2 or 3 minute segment of it that's a bit choppy, but he's an incredible teacher. He coined this admiration therapy, which is in there. I'm coming because he's got 50-60 years of life work in this realm, and he's like the grandfather of it. And I came to him as this kind of interviewer from my generation, and asked him questions like, oh, okay, but if I would talk to all my peers who are all mostly therapists and trauma healers and somatic this and that, they would say that they would kind of call this emotional or spiritual bypassing. And he does an incredible job at at defining the difference between bypassing and surpassing. And he knows the guy personally who invented that term, bypassing. So the thing is, like, we don't know the origins of these things. We're just doing it. We don't know where this whole trauma healing industry started. We don't know the whole Freudian thing and how, debilitating that aspect of psychology was. But anyways, I don't want to go too far out there. All I want to do is say, yeah, of course it is. It's important that we be present for ourselves, but guaranteed, when we do go in to visit that inner child or whomever, all those parts of us, we're gonna find love. That's what's there. So it all should take us. Yeah. And the more that we can be present for those parts of us, the more we can be absolutely present and welcome in the fullness of birth. So particularly for you as the masculine part of this equation here, your capacity to be absolutely present for Caitlin and baby will stem from your capacity to be absolutely present with yourself and everything that's coming up. So when that little boy can just weep or whatever, when all of you can exist and it's not suppressed or what, then those tears, they turn from tears of pain to tears of worship. They're like the holiest liquid, but your therapist probably won't say that. Your therapist will say, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that sadness. Oh, let's talk about that for the next 6 years. For any of my friends out there that are listening to this who are therapists, I love you. And I think that there's, I think there's also another pathway for us to explore when it comes to this. Okay. Feeling into the thing you said about asking the incoming soul if this is the right partner. Any suggestions on how to do it, or just go in and ask for signal? Yeah, again, letting it not be intellectual, right? But dropping into your feelings, and when you can just, your intention is a it's like a command language, but your intention isn't intellectual. So a lot of people think about what their intention is, but your intention already exists. It's your intention for being here is the reason for why you signed up. You know, it's like it's the thing that's driving you. So what you can do is you can just drop into the body, create a space, insist that all the energies of the mind and all the energies of your day and thoughts and concerns and all the things, that they just move away and allow you to be absolutely present for what is here right now. And then intend that you connect with this soul who will choose you as their parent, and start by saying thank you. Start by saying thank you. Start by saying, wow, I feel you. I've been thinking about babies lately. I can tell that this is a possibility. Thank you so much for being there. And then ask them, like, ask them. There's so much we can do inside this realm, but just to be direct and to answer your question, it's like, include them as a participant in bringing in their father. Once you do that, let go of it. You've done it, it's done. Now your work is to open yourself with a willingness to be changed. We have this tendency in life to say, I want this, I want that. I want this amount of money, I want that amount of thing and that relationship and this and that. And then life delivers and we go, ow, no, stop. So we have to intend and then be open to change and to move in the direction of ease, and to really know that if you're truthful about your willingness to be their mother, their mom, to be a vessel, to welcome them, that means to receive them, to be changed by them, to welcome their highest, fullest expression. And you're humble enough to say, I don't know what you need. I don't know, I'm going to let go of my need to know as much as humanly possible and really trust you, trust your wisdom, trust your intelligence and your knowing. It will just show up in a very unexpected, mysterious way. There's so much more to it, I think, Anna, but yeah, I think that's where I would like to go with it for the purpose of this. Is like, it's asking, that's one part of it, but the bigger part of it is letting go and allowing life to happen. And when you allow life to move through you from the time of preconception, you will be way more apt to open to allow life to move through you during birth. But if you're already trying to control at conception, then it tells you also a lot about how birth might go. Oh, Morgan, I'm so glad you're here. I love you, sister. Thanks for being here. Everyone who's here, we were going to do, last time we did a draw. I'd like to do something a little bit different every single time. I'll offer a masterclass probably once a month, just like this. We have 6 minutes, so I'll just wrap up by saying I'll offer this masterclass once or twice a month. And there'll always be something for you. Please, if you have like takeaways or inspiring things, go and share them with your circles, in your stories, or something like that. I think that these conversations are really important, and I really want to make this free content, free conversation and education and birth preparation available. I don't think we can possibly have too much of it. I think there's something that is thought-provoking in here for everyone in different ways. It would be amazing to have other birth keepers on here, therapists on here. And so, yeah, share it, invite people so that we have more and more people coming to these spaces. For everyone who is here, I am offering you all a 300 € coupon for the Transform into Birth 10-week birth preparation series. It's a birth preparation or a conception preparation series. So that's 10 2.5-hour sessions one-on-one with me one-on-one. And inside of that series, you'll go through the 4-part Heal Your Own Birth and Pre-Birth. And that program includes mom and dad. So it's really bringing in the focus on the relationship, but also so many ins and outs when it comes to preparing for birth. And this coupon code, the 300 € coupon code, can also go towards the Transcribing Living Memory series, which is a 4-part journey of revisiting and healing your own birth, pre-birth, conception, and preconception experiences. If you're close to birth, and you can only do, one thing, I would recommend that. So I will activate that coupon code and you'll receive it within the next 1 hour in your email to the same email address that you registered for this masterclass with. Are there any final questions before we sign off? Thank you so much for being here, Caitlin and baby. Nice to feel you, baby, with us. It's because of you that we're here. Thank you.